Hey friends, it's Martin. I'm in the studio today making some sourdough baguettes. This is a formula which is actually in the professional section of our website, but I've adopted it, thank goodness, for you and I working at home, and I think the results are really good, so stick around for the video. Okay, looks pretty good. It's the color is good. It opened pretty well. I really like the texture on the exterior. I dusted the cloth, the linen, with a little bit of that freshly milled Khorasan or kamut. And when it bakes, it toasts a little bit and also gives it just this extra added little hit of texture. I think it looks pretty good. Let's see what it looks like inside, which is kind of like the true test. Yeah, we're not going to argue with that. That's what it should look like. This is kind of what we strive for. Little fingertip size bubbles throughout. What that does is it really opens the texture. It changes the eating quality so that when you're eating, it's almost like lighter. It's this like airy pocket held by crumb and a crust on the outside. It's really what makes baguettes delicious. Exterior looks really nice and crusty, almost like eggshell-like, like really thin and crisp. Plenty of crust. The acidity is really light. It's there, but it's not like a sourdough. It's just sort of a little bit of brightness and a little bit of like extra bready flavor. Super nutty. I need to get some butter. Yeah, so there it is. A nice crusty sourdough baguette. And stick around and we're gonna go through the formula. Cheers. Okay, so let's go through this baguette. So before we get into it, I wanted to just show you that if you come to the King Arthur website and you type baguette in the search window, there are a lot of options. You don't have to make the formula that I made in the video. What I want is mostly for you to just see the methods and techniques that I use, which can be applied to many, many different types of baguettes. So on the website, lots of options, shapes and sizes, different flours. Now, the recipe that I used is in the professional section, so down at the bottom of the page, for professional bakers, bakery formulas, and sourdough baguettes. Now this is sized for a bakery that's making larger batch sizes. It's also with instructions that are for commercial mixers and those things. So what I'm interested in are the ingredients, the percentages, the quantity of pre-fermented flour, and maybe dough temperature also. Also bulk fermentation, how much bulk roughly. So those are the things that I'm going to sort of take and then I'm going to put them into Excel. This is where I end up. So I brought the percentages over. 90% all-purpose, 10% fresh milled Khorasan. You'll notice in the bakery formula that it has high extraction flour. I don't have high extraction and it can be harder to come by. So I used some Khorasan, which I'm able to get in bulk at the local food co-op, whatever. But you could also use bagged whole wheat flour. I used that at 10%. I like the Khorasan because it's really yellow. It's actually the cousin of durum, which is used to make pasta. So it's very yellow and super flavorful. So 90% all-purpose, 10% fresh milled Khorasan, 73% water. The 73% water could go up a little bit. Just depends on how thirsty, mostly how thirsty this fresh milled Khorasan is, or the whole wheat flour that you use is. And for that 10%, you could use a lot of different things. You could use medium rye, you could use whole rye, you could use spelt, you could use just about any type of whole grain flour that's going to add flavor. So 73%, and like I said, could go up or down depending on how thirsty your flour is. 2% salt, a little bit of sourdough culture, and a small amount of yeast. You know, some people are going to quibble about, it's a sourdough baguette, you can't add yeast. No, you can, it's okay.
There's yeast in the sourdough culture. Sourdough culture has yeast in it. It's a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. So adding a little bit of commercial yeast is not going to hurt anything. It's only going to help ensure that things ferment at a steady rate. It's okay. Don't be too uptight about that. So total formula is here. My batch is 5 baguettes at 300 grams for a total of 1,500 grams. So you'll see sum of all parts right here, 1,500 grams. It has a liquid levain, and that's 15% of the pre-fermented flour, 15% of the pre-fermented flour. A little bit of sourdough culture to get things started. We mix that and let it ripen overnight, 12 to 15 hours. And then it goes into the final mix. So let's look at the method. So set the pre-ferment, and then the mix is mixed flour, salt, yeast, which is optional. You don't have to use it. If you decide not to use it, make sure that you have a nice healthy leaven going, and you may need to add a little bit of time to your bulk fermentation. You're just going to have to kind of feel your way through that and look for signs of activity. So I mix to combine. I'm hoping for 74, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If you've got a cold house, you're going to want to watch that bulk fermentation, because if you get a 74 or 75 and the room is 62, by the end of bulk you may have a dough that's only 65 degrees or cooler. So you want to make sure that you leave it in a warm place and don't let it lose too much temperature, or you're going to need to extend bulk a little bit. Okay, I was able to do 3 hours of bulk fermentation, and I just did 3 folds. I say 3 to 4 here. Trying to find the balance between developing strength and not having too much strength. And in this case, I only ended up needing 3 folds. I needed 3 folds only. I did try it with 4, and the structure wasn't as good. It wasn't as open. And so I went back to 3, and I got a better result. You may find in your house with your hands and your flour and your activity level of your leaven that you may go up to 4. It's okay. So after 3 hours, I divided and pre-shaped the cylinders, and then rest for about 15 minutes until they felt like they would be extensible. And then shape. And at the shaping, you'll see me roll it through some of the freshly milled Khorasan. I really like that texture on the outside, and I mentioned it in the video. It adds flavor, it adds beauty, it adds texture. It's all the things that I want. And then I baked after about an hour. So actually, a quick tip here. So I allowed the doughs to rise for about an hour, and then I put them into the fridge for about 15 minutes or so just to cool them down. And it helps to make them score more easily if they're a little bit cool. So I gave them a little bit of time in the fridge right before baking. And that's a good tip for baguettes and for some other things too. So those went into a 500-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes, depending on, your oven. And always with steam, always with steam. So that's pretty much it. Sourdough baguettes. You don't have to do this one. You could do the formula that is on the website. My hope, like I said, is that you can use the methods that I showed you on the video, like how I shape, how I divide, how I shape the cylinders before shaping, how I score, that you can use those techniques and apply them to many of the baguettes on the website. Baguettes are about as hard as it gets for bread at home, so be patient with yourself. Keep practicing, and I wish you lots of luck and delicious, crisp, crusty, flavorful baguettes.